and welcome to the Resto channel with myself, Kieran, and of course Gareth here with me today. Yes, there he is. We are going to be doing a little video here on what we think AEW should do for Full Gear, which is arriving on our screens on 7th of November, just under a month away.
Yeah, it feels like it should be longer than that, but it's just under a month now. So exciting.
Not too sure when this video is going to be posted, but roughly from this point, we're going to have 4 Dynamites beforehand. So there's a bit of time to mix and build, for some little things there and then. So we'll dive straight in. We've got 2 matches that are neither related to a championship or the tournament final that we're aware of. So these are just 2 general matches that we would like to see over in AEW. Come on, Gareth. You start us off.
Oh, I thought you were going to go through everything. We've got the tournament final, TNT Championship match, the Tag Team Championship match, a Women's Championship match, and the AEW Championship match as well.
All that stuff.
We're starting off with the first match, which I was trying to think, because I wanted to put 2 women's matches out here. And I was trying to think of looking at what they're doing at the moment and what... Because I was trying to be semi-realistic with... Well, I was trying to be realistic with all of it, but then one of them I'm kind of being, semi-realistic because I don't know whether it's possible. But my first match is a tag team match in the women's division with Tay Conti and Anna Jay facing Brandy Rhodes and Ali, probably on the kickoff show or whatever they call it, the buy-in.
The buy-in.
Because ultimately these Anna Jay and Tay Conti haven't been wrestling that long. Brandy Rhodes isn't amazing. I don't want to put hate on there, but, as a wrestler, she's not one of the biggest stars in the division. In terms of name, she is, but in terms of, I'm getting carried away. Ali's obviously great as well. But there's a little bit of a story there, obviously, between Brandy and Anna Jay. And I don't know whether it would develop, or whether it's going to develop, but my purpose for this is I want to see more of Tay Conti and Anna Jay. I want to see them together, and then I also want to see them in more matches, because I'm a big fan of what they've done so far. And Brandy and Ali are a good team that I'd like to see them get a win over. So there's a little bit of a story there. I want to see a couple more of a couple of them. Brandy and Ali are fine as well in my book, anyway. And I think it'd be a fun little thing for the buy-in. So that's why I've gone with that. Not gone too big for that one, but there you go. How about yourself for your first match?
Yeah. Okay, well, for my first match, I went a bit typical AEW here, because realism, all that sort of stuff, multi-man match. Let's do this for a number 1 contender for the TNT title, because I'm a big fan of them, given the whole ranking system can be a bit funny sometimes, so this is a great way in getting someone that you want to put in that position. Maybe they take a loss. Maybe they win if you're feeling a bit brave. Who knows? But Guy, I've just got a list of guys here, but you could swap and change them. I got Cage, I got Phoenix, Archer, Miro. Got to get him on that card. Solly Case, Scorpio Sky, Matt Hardy, Guevara. Matt Hardy and Guevara, that's going to be a funny mix.
Don't do that.
But essentially, right, pairing up these guys, there's a little feuds in between, there's cross-correlation between the guys here. Again, you've got Hardy, Guevara. I'm not too big a fan on that sort of thing, but I think you'd be missed without having Guevara on Full Gear. He's great. He's always there. He should be there. But I also think everyone's got their affiliated stable or a tag team, so you can get them involved as well. It'll just be a humongously fun match. And I think you could really do something with Miro and Kip, because that's something that we need to see more of. The latest Dynamite, as of recording, all I saw of them was them played on a car arcade machine. That's all well and great for the laughs, but I want to see some development. I think that could be some tension, maybe some miscommunication, given that they're new with one another still. You could go with the story that they're just too busy playing video games. No, you could do whatever you want. Make it silly, because I think you work into both people's strengths if you're going to make it a bit more comedic, a bit more silly, because that's what we love Rusev for. We don't love him for being all... We love him for having a bit of a laugh. And then you've got Cage and Archer. They've had a bit of a history of one another. And so, it's just a really typical AEW spot fest, but at the end of it, you get number 1 contender and happy days. I know there's not too much thought going into it, but I was just like,
No.
there's quite a few 1v1 matches I've got here, and I just thought
Yeah.
you need that high octane AEW spot fest.
Yeah. I think I was thinking of a match kind of in this vein, and I kind of was you know, there's other matches I put on this card, or I think to fantasy book for this pay-per-view that I haven't gone with as well, because we've only got 7 slots, and usually AEW, including the buy-in, I think the last show was 11 matches. We wouldn't want that many this time, but there will be more than 7 for sure. So I didn't do one of these matches, kind of thinking that you bring up the point, because I think it's a good point to make. But
Oh,
yeah, a lot of
you
the
bloody predicted what I'm saying, mate. Bloody you.
well, yeah, predicted, or I was hoping more, but yeah, that was one. Speaking of, I think you mentioned Cage. Assuming you're done with that match.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of Cage, I've gone with Cage versus Darby Allin for the FTW Championship. I don't know what they're going to do with the FTW Championship. They're having guys challenge for it, and if you got them in a match, yeah, throw it on the line. Why not? Doesn't really matter. The story is pretty simple in terms of what we're seeing at the moment. They just don't like each other, and they're clearly building to a match still. We had Darby Allin versus Ricky Starks, which makes me think that they're still planning on Brian Cage versus Darby Allin to be the big match between the two. This kind of all started when Brian Cage debuted in a ladder match, so you could make it a ladder match for that purpose, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. I'd be happy with it being a normal match as well. But yeah, these two facing off in some kind of a way. You could throw them in a normal contenders match, multi-man, and do a little bit, and then maybe build to them having a singles match on TV. Could see them doing that as well. They did that on All Out with the Battle Royal, didn't they? They were both in there, had a big spot in order to eliminate Darby Allin. It was a cool little moment, but ultimately just was there driving their feud for a singles match. I'm kind of hoping Full Gear would be the blow off for these two boys. So hopefully in their own match they'll get it. What about your other match, Mike?
I had an idea for a match. I say an idea. I just took in a match that was clearly what was being built to. But I'm going to bring something else to the table after having a bit of thought. Brody Lee versus Colt Cabana.
Okay, go on.
This is off the top of my head because I just thought about this. But because I had something else in place, but it's a bit boring, so I'm going to go with something a bit more fancy. Essentially,
what was your other thing? Just out of interest.
MJF Chris Jericho. It's obvious.
I think that's going to be further down the line.
I don't know, like, and yeah, it might well be, but it's just like it was something that they lead into. There's obviously something developing there. It makes sense, but it's just not the most exciting to talk about. And maybe Brody Lee and Colt Cabana isn't probably the most exciting thing in the world either, but I think Brody Lee, I haven't got him in the TNT Championship match here. I haven't got him involved at all, in fact. And that was there's something wrong there, because you got one of the the best, biggest men in wrestling right now. You can't not have him involved in this card. So maybe something involving Colt Cabana, something that I think I noticed upon memory was during that loss, we didn't see Colt Cabana support him either heading into the ring. I'm not too sure if he was part of the collective towards the end. I didn't see him there. You could form a story out of that in terms of support if you wanted to. There's definitely some layers if you wanted to go in that route. But essentially, it's given Brody Lee a good old dominant win and Colt Cabana being that really plucky baby face, because everyone's going to root for him in the back. And ultimately, Brody Lee beating the fuck out of Colt Cabana would be thoroughly entertaining to watch, to be fair. And I think Colt Cabana would thrive in that, because I think he's a missed opportunity given his age. Not to say like he's going to be running out of time soon or anything like that, but it's just like you've got a really lovable baby face there. Utilize it. You've got loads of them, but I just think, he's a guy you could definitely utilize, and Brody Lee could really benefit from having a loss or not being buried. Before anyone says anything, he hasn't been buried. But he's lost a match, so maybe having a good old dominant win over someone like Colt Cabana makes storyline sense. Could develop for something in the future. But again, that's just something they just pulled out of a hat, and I just thought, you know what, that could be quite interesting.
I think it's also one of those which, similar to that PAC Orange Cassidy one, would be good to go on just before the end because it won't be a long match. There'll be little bits of comedy within there, of course, as it's Colt Cabana. But then also Brody, through his dominant nature, it's not going to last particularly long. So it could be maybe like an 8-minute match where it's justified being that length. Just a nice little break, some comedic stuff, and then ultimately Brody Lee getting the win before the main event. In terms of like building your card as well, that would be like, I could see them doing a match in a similar vein to that in
Yeah.
that spot, especially if Brody Lee isn't going to be challenging for the TNT Championship at Full Gear.
Yep.
But move on to the tournament final now. I've gone with Kenny Omega versus Rey Fenix. Right?
Oh, that's a bit different.
I've gone with that purely because it'll be an amazing match. And the only real like story build up I've got is that Phoenix is going to beat Hangman in the semis with the help of the Young Bucks. And Kenny Omega ultimately ends up beating Rey Fenix. So you kind of got this thing where Phoenix beats Hangman, but Kenny beats Phoenix. Obviously, Hangman's protected, but ultimately he's going to be angry at that because then it's something that Kenny Omega's got where he feels he had Phoenix beat. And Phoenix is a tag guy, so and he's a heel, so getting that kind of cheap win kind of makes sense for him. He'll ultimately lose, or he could even win. Phoenix could even win that through some kind of a way, and because it depends where the tournament final winner, where they're going to get a title shot. If it's going to be a TV defense, I could see it not being Kenny Omega and him somehow losing, and that ultimately pissing him off and making him turn into the cleaner, being the final thing that does that. That very much could be a thing, and Phoenix would be a good kind of TV defense for. Presumably, it'll be Moxley. Especially if they do one of the two options that I've got for the AEW Championship, it definitely build into a larger story there. But probably Kenny Omega wins, and then it's a build then to probably Revolution where Kenny Omega wins. But yeah, I've gone with Kenny Omega versus Rey Fenix. How about yourself, mate?
I've done the obvious one, I'm afraid. I'm fucking obvious as shit. But the reason why I went with it is I am losing my patience a little bit.
Oh, bloody hell, don't be one of them.
It's more so, it's that thing where it's a lot of talk, and it's been a lot of talk, in fact, now. And I'm personally ready for something a little bit more. Because up to this point, we're just going to get talk and more talk and more talk. And at that very point, I think, personally speaking, I won't be fed up. I'm not, because I'll never be fed up with this. But this has been building. I saw, because I saw the thing with February. It was been building since February, and yeah, and I was just like, I think personally, I'm just ready. I'm ready for it to just develop, not exactly kick off and spark. Yeah. I think what they've built here is a very reasonable, coincidental way in getting both men involved in a final, rather than forcing it because they can't keep their hands off one another, sort of thing. You know, that sort of crap. They've actually come up with, because I mean, undoubtedly, surely Omega and Hangman are going to be in the opposite ends of the tournament, you know, and that's going to be something.
They're not meeting in like the semi-final or the first round.
No, you know, it's got to be opposite end of the brackets, and they're going to make, and as much, I think personally, I would really, I don't know. My interpretation of the story with Hangman Page is that he feels he's a piece of shit. That he's very much been put down by one of the best champions in wrestling history in Kenny Omega, saying that he's a tag team wrestler. He's not a singles guy. He's not all that. And I just think the idea of Hangman losing in that final to
Mm.
Kenny Omega. We've seen episodes of Kenny Omega where he does snap even when he does win.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to do that, then by all means, I'm not too sure, but it needs to make storyline sense, of course. But basically, I would love to see a match between the two, and I don't think as much as you could fit the Young Bucks in, and it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. It absolutely does.
Mm.
We saw today with Dynamite that their focus is firmly with FTR, and um, I think that's what they're heading for more so than anything, because that's
Yeah.
what they have done for weeks now. Like I say, weeks, months.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just going with the direction that they've put forward. It's with this tournament, they've not talked about anyone else in the tournament. They've talked about them
Kenny
two.
Omega and Hangman.
And
Yeah.
if we know anything about wrestling, like I personally think this tournament was built for them, because okay, it did come out of nowhere a little and went
Yeah.
yeah. So, and I think in regards to, I've got other ideas for Ray Phoenix, not for him
Well. Well.
single-handedly, but as a collective within the group that he's in going forward.
Yeah.
With some things I've got later on, so which makes sense more in what we're seeing on TV, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I just think, judging from what we've seen on TV, I'm a little bit. I'm just eager to see that match now, and I'm quite a big fan of the fact that it's a coincidental match that's come around. It's not just like I told you before. It's not
Yeah.
these men can't keep their hands away from it. All that shit.
I think
It's
for sure, like the way that the story's been told, it has to be the only way you could do this match at Full Gear is if there's a tournament, and so the fact there is a tournament kind of makes it seem quite obvious. And there's definitely nothing wrong with Hangman going into this losing, and then kind of
because
having to then have that long build then to him eventually taking the title off Kenny Omega, which is the dream.
that's the
Um,
dream. That's
I'm
exactly
I'm
it.
I'm kind of in love with the idea of Hangman just not facing Kenny until he beats him, and then therefore proving he was better all along, or he was just as good all along, or whatever. But it's not necessarily bad. It's just like in terms of like it's no worse. It's just
No, it's
I want to wait and I want the build. And I'd like this tournament to be a red herring just to kind of work the audience. You can work the audience too much, and there are definitely some people who are just now itching for that match already. And it's like that thing. It's like, how long do you want to keep people waiting? You can overdo it.
well,
I don't
that's
think
the
that
thing.
in this. I don't think in this story they can overdo it, just because it's already been such a long build, and when you get there, people are going to inevitably lose their minds anyway. As long as you don't drag it out for like 10 years and they've still not faced each other, that would be ridiculous, obviously.
No, but like
But
that's
yeah,
the
I
thing.
think
That's what I think.
there's realistic
personally-
ways you can get in there and still develop the story without having the match. But at the same time, you can very much have the match.
Well, that's the thing, you see, because I watched AEW today. I didn't get to watch it on the night,
Yeah.
and when I saw the thing with Kenny, I was just excited for Kenny. I don't know. I just think my investment levels now are dropping, especially considering the feud has taken a little bit of a backseat, which I do like. It's given a breath of fresh air for other things to go out and develop, but
Yeah.
the things that we're getting now is there's a tournament and then Hangman kicking off and I'm walking off. And they're great little things, but it's just little things, and the little things aren't making me salivating in my mouth for the match. I don't know. Just personally, it's like I love the build. I love a variety of things, but right now I'm in a position where I think I'm not going to care about it. Like,
You will care about it. I think that's undoubted. But I do see as well at the same time. I'm hoping that their title match, Kenny and Hangman, they meet it All Out, which is another like 9 months kind of thing. You can very much have this match, have Hangman lose and stuff, and then have a long build to him, and it will still feel like a fresh match then. Come All Out as well.
oh, it will. It absolutely will.
We can go on and on about this match ultimately.
Yeah. I've got.
What's your TNT match?
So I'm a bit lost with this because, of course, we haven't seen anything post Orange Cassidy as of yet. We haven't seen anything as to what they might be leaning towards. So realism is a bit, what can you go with? So what
Yeah.
I did here is, who do I want Cody to face? Who do I think would benefit from facing Cody on a stage like that? And the person that I went with is Ricky Starks.
Okay.
Primarily because I've seen enough. I've basically seen enough of Cody faces Big Bloke. I would very much like to see a match between Ricky Starks and Cody. I want to see that dynamic with Taz and Arn. I think that would be really great as well. Heading in, I think Brian Cage has this thing with Darby Allin more so, but then you can
Yeah.
have this whole thing with Ricky Starks and Cody. I think that would
Yeah.
be on top of it all because you can easily do that. Again, that's just purely it. It's Ricky Starks is obviously not going to win this, but I was just
Mm.
thinking of it purely from a perspective of who could benefit from being on a stage like this. And ultimately, a name that came up to my head and I was a really big fan of was Ricky Starks.
Yeah. I think that's a good shout. He did obviously face Cody for the title already during Cody's thing, but by the time we get there, it would have been about 6 months. And it was very much kind of a surprise, whereas this would have had some build. So
But that's the thing because
I'd love to see the match.
You're not working Ricky Starks to his, at least from what I've been told, his strengths, which is the
Yeah,
promo side of things as well. So
yeah,
yeah, you go ahead.
for sure. No, I think it's a really good shout. I have gone with Brody Lee versus Cody just because
That's the story.
it's a story they've already got, and I would like to see develop because we spoke about in our video that we just recorded convenience booking, and I won't unless they throw Brody Lee into the tournament, which they very much could do. And another idea I had for the tournament final was Brody Lee versus Kenny Omega,
Hmm.
and that kind of being the final thing. Then kind of Kenny's final match as a face, and being against the biggest dickhead in the tournament in the company in terms of like actually badass heel, not MJF or anything like that.
Hmm.
But like, which is basically what the cleaner would then become, would be an interesting way of doing it. So that's an interesting tournament final that could possibly happen. I don't know whether they're going to put Brody Lee in that or if they are going to go with this. But ultimately, if he's not in that, then uh, it feels like it's got to be either like that Colt Cabana match that you said, which he could go backstage and blame him and stuff. I've given you all this and you haven't helped me. Blah blah. Blah. You could do a story like that, or you could just continue this after Cody's had a couple of title defenses. Brody just murders him again, and then they have their third match and the best out of three, obviously being a rubber match, and probably go back to just a classic match, because you've had that kind of hardcore stipulation match at this point. But mainly because I want to see what Brody Lee does next, and obviously this could change if he ends up being announced in the tournament on this Wednesday coming. Then it's all obviously he won't be in this match. If he ends up doing something different, as long as there's something with his character, I won't be disappointed. But if he's just kind of like after Lance Archer lost to Cody, he takes the back seat and just there like, oh, you've lost your match, so we're not going to do anything with you now because convenience sake. Just want to make sure there's something there for him. But I've gone with that because I personally want to see the match.
Yeah.
But yeah, can move on now to the AEW Tag Team Championship match, and I've gone with not the Young Bucks. Aha, how about that? I've gone with FTR versus Chris Jericho and Jake Hager because I mean I don't get why they've started tag teaming a lot recently, but it feels like it could be because they're building up a record. Um, Obviously it's heel versus heel, but ultimately AEW can tell a story. There, I think the main thing that interests me is obviously there's a lot of whispering and talking about Four Horsemen, MJF being involved with FTR and all that. So you could play into that, along with playing into the larger story of MJF and Jericho. Um, but yeah, I think they're going to want to get Jericho on the card. This is more one that I think might be the case. they could be doing the Young Bucks, but I just feel like they're not. I don't know. Just feel like they're not. I'm probably just wrong, aren't I? But yeah, this was one because I was looking at the tag teams. Obviously, they're facing Best Friends this coming week, and all the other tag teams who are kind of strong, they've either faced or just aren't going to be on Full Gear, at least in a match like this at the moment. So that's why I've gone with them. Really, there is that kind of wider story of MGF and Jericho, which you could potentially weave into this. I haven't got MGF as a match on the card. I don't know if he's not facing Jericho, what he would be doing. So yeah, that's why. That's MJF's kind of little bit. He'll be involved somehow, I'm sure. But yeah, what about yourself?
It's going to be FTR Young Bucks.
Okay.
It's going to be.
Okay. It probably will be ultimately.
I know I'm boring the fuck out of you with my suggestions, right? But like, at the end of the day, I think something that could really they've made a key thing with the matches of FTR recently, where they felt the need to cheat on some occasions when they've particularly struggled. I wouldn't be surprised if the FTR do cheat and it gets to the Young Bucks' head.
Yeah.
And that just further develops Matt Jackson and his obviously this sort of turn that he's having, not exactly heel turn per se, but he's having a bit of an edge to him. I think that's something that's definitely gonna to see that play out in front of them, because obviously they've had Tully Blanchard do it week in, week out. They didn't do it with the recent match gone ham, but I think they could definitely play it that ahead of time. They could work that into the match, and effectively what you can do, because FTR are in that sort of centerpiece where they're happy to be more heelish, but they're happy to be a bit, at the beginning they were happy to be more babyfacey against the Butch and the Blade and stuff that we saw from them.
Yeah.
So I just think, and with the trajectory that the Young Bucks are in, I just think it's probably the best. I just want to see. Just fucking. It's just what they've built to. It's just what they've built to. Because if it's not this, then we're waiting till next year, right?
Revolution. My kind of thought was they might do Bucks beating FTR and Kenny Omega getting the heavyweight championship both on the same night, and then you kind of have the Elite standing strong and Hangman's just there like, oh, well, I'm here,
Yeah. No, that's not bad shit.
But ultimately, the Bucks could win them earlier, and then Kenny wins it, and they still stand with all the gold, come Revolution. So they could still very much do that anyway, just not on the same night.
I think, yeah. Go on.
I was just going to say, especially if you played in some story with Hangman still trying to do the tag team division and not necessarily have a match, because I don't know who we'd partner with, because obviously Omega's gone. But if there was that, he was still looking at that, and then he's looking at Kenny. It's like he's left me, gone on, and now the thing I've got is the Young Bucks, who ultimately I was trying to not fall behind them. Very interesting. But again, you could easily do that with the Young Bucks. But then I feel like if the Young Bucks face FTR here, then they don't win. Feels too soon to take the titles off FTR. So I don't know.
I don't think FTR. I obviously in my thing here, I think FTR are going to retain, and I think rightly so. I think they should have a really long title reign. They've been a great backbone for that division. But I think what would be ultimately really, really good is, at this given occasion, I don't know, it just seems too good. I don't just seem from what I've seen from Dynamite, the cheating, the Young Bucks.
The story's right there, isn't it?
It's right there. So I'm just piecing things together essentially, and I'm just putting it in, and it's a month's time. So again, so. And it's not a whole lot of time, but they could do anything. I need to speed things up just a little bit. So AEW's Women's Championship match here. For me personally, I went with Hikaru Shida versus Britt Baker, and again, I was toying with Big Swole, but I don't know. I think
it's a hard one, isn't it?
It is a bit of a hard one, but as much as we've praised Hikaru Shida, I do think the title could benefit on being on someone with a lot more character to her,
Yeah, for
because if
sure.
there's anything that that division needs going ahead is a bit of character with everyone involved. So
Yeah.
having someone like Baker for people to bounce off of, people like Big Swole, a variety of people within that division. I just think you can really help benefit your division. That's all. Simple thinking. And plus, we haven't seen much of Hikaru Shida lately at all for some reason. I couldn't explain to you. She hasn't even been in the crowd, I don't think.
No, we haven't seen her at all. It's really fucking annoying. um, yeah, I agree. Britt Baker will be a really good one. I worry because she lost to Big Swole. That and she's I think fifth in the rankings. She could get up further in the rankings. They could do a number one contenders fatal four way kind of thing. They've done that before, and that could get her a title shot. And
Yeah.
then you've got it, and then also Big Swole I think is number 2 ranked at the moment. And so then after that, you could then build to Baker versus Big Swole to continue that feud for the title.
I mean, hell, you
Um,
could do a triple threat if you wanted. It's
yeah, yeah.
yeah, because
That's
it's not
probably
like
the way I'd go because Big Swole, I feel like in one-on-one matches, she's not quite there in terms of.
that's what I was feeling.
Yeah, I feel like Hikaru Shida in a match with her, Shida's probably a good enough opponent, but in the matches where we've seen Swole against someone who isn't very experienced, she does kind of struggle at times. And yeah, obviously she's got her strengths, but I worry that she could get exposed and then thrown down the card. Maybe a triple threat would be the best way to go. I've
I
gone
think,
with Big Swole or Britt Baker. I'm not sure which one they're going to do just because of where the rankings are at the moment.
yeah.
I'd like to see Baker more. And yeah, an outside shout I'll just quickly mention as well was Abaddon because this is coming. She's got a good record, and this is coming just after Halloween. And I wouldn't put it past a wrestling company to do something stupid like that.
That would be
Anyway,
quite funny. That would be quite funny. And then, of
yeah.
course, we have got AEW Championship match. You run yours. Come on.
Okay, well, I've gone with PAC because it's what I want.
Oh,
All right.
mate! I've done the same.
Oh, good. Okay, I thought you were going to go like something a bit more sensible. Obviously, we have no idea whether he's even available. But I'm just hoping because he's not got the record and the rankings. We've spoken about that in the past. But I think with a situation like PAC, he's got the motivation to just be like, "Fuck the rankings." That was my attempt at a Geordie accent. You know, he's been held back by the pandemic, and he's felt that he's been held back by AEW, the higher ups there, the EVPs and stuff before. So he can come in and just be like, "Look, I don't care about those, Moxley. You're a fighting champion. I'm going to twat you in the head with the chair, and now I'm going to make it personal, and therefore you're going to want to do it." I think something I'd love to see in the build up to this. Basically, I want PAC back this coming week. Attacks Moxley after the Archer match. You get the Triangle people, Eddie Kingston, throw them all in. You can build to something with them later. But basically, they all, because obviously you got that Eddie Kingston, he's got a thing with Moxley as well. So they attack, and then Eddie Kingston's like, "Oh yeah, you didn't see this coming, did you? That's what the wink was about. Ha ha! I've got you all." You pay off the wink. Eddie Kingston just like has a great little laugh. He's there, PAC's there. Everyone's happy. I'm happy, and everything's good in the world.
I think, yeah. It's kind of coincidental. I think something that I've included in my little bullet points here is the group is fairly unstable. They've really played on that,
Yeah.
where it's sort of like anything could happen in regards to where people are affiliated with. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get, it's not technically a civil war, but I wouldn't be surprised. And I'd love to see a Eddie Kingston versus PAC situation then build in afterwards.
Yeah. For sure.
Because then you could have Butcher and the Blade with Kingston taking on Death Triangle, essentially. And I think that would really work well as well, going forward. Because I don't think it's right for PAC to win, given the record, given this a sudden thing. But I think
he won't win.
What I thought, though, like, I don't know if you thought the same, but it's just like, I can't think of a big enough match. Because this is undoubtedly going to main event.
I did think of one being Penta, because he's not in the tournament. That's a match I'd love to see, and one I could just about see them justifying, even though he's not a singles guy. Again, they would have to do it through a story rather than the rankings or the record.
Yeah.
So, and it wouldn't have the same impact if it's a PAC, because we all know PAC is a singles guy, and he does have a bit of a singles record this year. His losses have all come in very high-profile matches. And he's got his overall record in AEW is really good as well. So, and also he's got a personal vengeance against Moxley, personal vengeance against the pandemic and the AEW upper. That all fits his character. It's kind of perfectly set up for PAC, but it could be Penta if not. But otherwise, I don't know what they're going to do.
I'm kind of surprised.
People were suggesting like Lance Archer, Eddie Kingston, a triple threat, which I'd like to see the match, but ultimately, don't feel that's what they're going to do. What were you going to say you're surprised about?
I'm just surprised that we were bang on the money, really.
Yeah.
Another note that I put down here as well, that given that we're obviously seeing the Bucks turn, I feel as if the tag division may be getting a little bit heel heavy. So to counteract that, maybe having a Kingston, Butcher and Blade situation where they turn more face, because Kingston can
they're the more likable.
Yeah, they're definitely more likable.
Yeah.
At least in the kayfabe sense. So that's something to think about as well. But that's been us.
One thing I did say for that feud as well, PAC. I'd love to see PAC versus Darby Allin on a TV episode just as a match. I think that would be amazing for the two characters clashing. And you could do that in the build up to Moxley, because obviously Darby Allin's kind of his boy, isn't he? So
yeah.
But yeah, that is our what AEW should do at Full Gear.
That is what. Yep, exactly. Gareth said it better than me. That is what AEW should do at Full Gear. If you enjoyed this, then please consider liking, subscribing, all of that good stuff. And if there's anything that you would like to see, if you'd make any changes to the championship matches, the included matches at the beginning, if there's any other like one-off matches you think you'd like to see, what about the tournament final? Maybe it shouldn't be Hangman. Maybe Omega shouldn't make it to the final. What have you got? Like, just let us know as to your thoughts. TNT Championship, it's a bit, open-ended. Yeah, it could be Brody Lee, but who knows? Who knows what's counting? That's the whole beauty of AEW. But either way, thank you very much for being with us. If you've made it this far, consider subscribing, all that good stuff, and you can expect us.
That's an idea. Just popped in my head. MJF versus Cody, a year on from the turn for the TNT Championship. That could be a good guy to take it off, Cody.
Who knows? MJF. Who knows? But either way, thank you very much. We'll be seeing you soon. Take care.
Goodbye.